Hello everyone, I guess hopefully you guys are having a wonderful day, and today we are back again with another PWCC weekly review where we go through the top 100 soccer items auctioned off this week, and I try not to touch anything on my desk again, but that is as simple as it is. If you guys enjoy, of course, make sure to leave a like. I would appreciate it greatly, but with that said, let's go ahead and get on into it. So going full screen on over to the top 100. This week we start off below 100. Typically, if we start off below 100, I want to go a little bit quicker, but I still do like talking about these items. I think $100 in soccer still gets you great stuff because, you know, we're not some massive space like baseball where $100 gets you like a modern rookie card. So back here, you know, you can do a little bit of damage. We have a blue Messi to start us off from the Equalizers edition of Select. We have a Andres Brehme rookie, presumably. It does say it in the title, but I'm not too sure. I'm going to take the word for it there. 90 for a PSA 7. Duncan Edwards PSA 4. We've seen some of these lately. The high grade's getting a good bit. This says 1955, but from what I looked at, PSA's changed that to 1954. So that should be within his rookie sphere. 2023 Erling Haaland anime card. Interesting to see that on here. Never would have thought I'd see that. 2020 Victor Osimhen purple. We have a Ronaldo foil, which I mean also kind of purple. I'd rather have this than this, to be honest, but to each their own. I guess to be fair, you know, cards like this, they're still just base cards, but they do look very good. I guess this says foil. I never really know if PSA grades things properly, so, you know, I take their words minorly on Spanish edition stuff, but yeah, 96 for the Ronaldinho, same for the Ronaldo. Here we have an Mbappe, Neymar, and Messi foil from their time at PSG. We have a PSA 9. This is actually a 1958, which you need the inverted back for, so seems like a decent price for a rookie Bobby Charlton. Pretty plentiful, but PSA 9 not all that easy. I mean, these do grade pretty well, but a 9 is, you know, still good. Above that, 2006 Messi World Cup sticker. We have a 96 R9. Yeah, so this is second year. He has a second year that looks pretty similar to the first year, design-wise. I believe, yeah, this says 96 on the back, so yeah, that matches up. You know, I typically don't like stickers submitted via the NBA PWCC thing personally. You know, I'm sure they're authentic. Maybe, I don't want to say I'm sure, but I'd imagine most of the time they're authentic. But there's probably a reason someone's submitting via this and not, you know, a grader of some sort. We have Grinch in 1961, Olivier and Benassi. PSA 1 goes for 103. Doesn't look too bad. I like the colors. Above that, we have a 2019 Jack Grealish out of 75 here from the 2019 Prism. We have a 2015 Ronaldo PSA 9 of the out of 199 red Prism of the National Pride set. Initially, when I saw this, I thought it was a little high. We'll talk, I guess, a little bit more as to why that might be here in a second. Here we have a Romario 1990 Vote Ball. Looks really, really good, like the colors on the Vote Ball there. Dennis Bergkamp rookie year as well, I do believe. Keeping it moving, we have 2006 of the candy sticker, infamous candy sticker. I did look this up just to see sort of how it's doing, and yeah, this one goes for 140. Last one, 110, 70, 140. So, you know, it looks like it's up a little bit. You know, if we go far back, it's going to be much higher, and it's obviously down long term. But I mean, you know, upon release, no one cared about this, so for it to be worth $110 now, it's still pretty good. Then we have a 2004 PSA 2, some of the cheapest Messis you'll ever see because, you know, basically as low of a grade as you can get. Goes for 110. I looked up other comps on PSA 2s, and typically 100, 200 is the range, so that makes sense. And have a Diogo Dalot here out of 10. Gold Prism goes for 112. Above that, Diego Maradona 1990 PSA 9 goes for 117. The 90 World Cup honestly isn't cared about at all, which is pretty fair. Comparably, 82 and 86 are much more important, but yeah, I mean, a PSA 9 for 117, if you're going for the full run, doesn't seem all too shabby. Every now and then I do see like sealed stuff for the 90 World Cup. I don't really see it for 82, 86, other than, you know, some packs every now and then. We have a 2022. I thought this was interesting. We have a Rodrigo and a Benzema going for the same price. Now, I'd imagine this is because Rodrigo has a lot less of this, you know, sort of low-numbered, higher end on the scale of, you know, lower-end stuff, right? This isn't on-card or, you know, anything crazy like that, but comparably, I'd much rather have the Benzema, but that's a risk you take on a newer player, so I'm sure the person buying that knows. Above that, 2014 red, blue, Blue Red Wave? There we go. One way or the other. A 2014 colorful Messi in a PSA 9 goes for 126. 2004 Zidane foil PSA 10 goes for 126. We have a Johan Cruyff hand cut Cleveland Petrels PSA 8 going for 126. Relatively early career here, 1971. Looking at the back, what do we have? Just a blank back. Moving on up, we have a 1944 Lebruna here paired with another Blue Red Wave Messi. In addition, we have a Cristiano Ronaldo facsimile signature PSA 7 of a 2004 FA sticker. So I did look this up just because, yeah, kind of curious on how this early career Manchester United Ronaldo stuff has sort of aged. And yeah, this PSA 7 goes for 140. Last 4 did 85, so relatively seems like a pretty good deal. But PSA 8 last time, or I guess earlier this month, did 235, so a 7 going for 140 isn't all that crazy, really. Moving on up, 1979 Crack Super Football Maradona here in a PSA 2. We have the nice little Pog. Also looked this one up just because I was curious. So basically there was a 51 that was authentic altar that sold recently. SGC one on fixed price did 300, so that's kind of crazy. I mean, PSA 4 did 210. Relatively, I mean, it seems like a decent price for PSA 2, but you don't really get the grading premium on, you know, I guess basically non-rookie career stuff. I think grading premiums basically only, you know, baked into that. And beside that, you can typically get better grades for cheaper. So that seems within line. Camavinga on a 10 goes for a little bit more than the Rodrigo and the Benzema. And again, you know, early career type of stuff, that's definitely going to play a bit better. And Camavinga has been good for Madrid despite, I mean, I don't follow the team too much, but despite having not as much playing time as many, you know, some would want, but yeah, something to note. We have a Calcio Flash Maradona and a PSA 5 going for 156. It felt like a pretty decent number considering, I mean, you know, Calcio Flash, at least for Baggio and Maldini, while they are more rare than some of the other, you know, alternatives, they're not the most rare. And this for Maradona is, you know, what, like 7th, 8th year. So, I mean, 156 for PSA 5 doesn't seem bad to me. Above that, we have a Lewandowski auto. We have a Monty 1930s CGC with the Circa dating. They're pretty well known for this at this point, and other companies are, you know, picking up on it a little bit because there's certain eras that are hard to pin down or maybe even impossible, so you kind of have to just do guesswork. Next to that, we have a Zebra Prism here from 2020 Select of Cristiano Ronaldo going for 168. A few notable Ronaldos. We'll see some more later. Miazza Yellow, a pretty classic Miazza portrait shot that you see on a lot of different things. A Wayne Rooney Blue Shimmer, PSA 10 goes for 186. This was pretty interesting. Seemed like a really high price to me, 186 for PSA 1. I saw an authentic go a few days ago on eBay for like 20 bucks. So relatively that's very high, but you know, I went back and looked at sales, and even relative to other sales it was high. There was a 112, 100, so this is almost double the price, and you can kind of see why. I mean, this PSA 1 looks pretty good. It went for 112. I mean, nice looking PSA 1. This PSA 1 that just sold is much nicer. Now, granted, centering isn't quite there, but the corners are super sharp. You know, the color is very well kept. Just looks amazing. So I can see why it did a big premium, but I think that might be a little high for a 1 at this point, despite it looking great. But that's really the give and the take with vintage at this, and sort of the eye appeal of it. We have a Luka Modric Gold Refractor from 2018 Topps Chrome. I took a look at this just because honestly it's sort of an oddball one that you don't really see too often. I also was interested to see if the SGC 10 got any sort of a premium, and it did not. PSA 10 recently sold on fixed price for 600, and even raw goes for 150. PSA 9 went for 200 earlier this year, so an SGC 10 going for 200 is very low. Keeping it moving, we have a Ryan Giggs Nobility Crescent auto here going for 200. Just the base Crescent, but Ryan Giggs, you don't see a lot of autos from him, so that makes sense why that does a good bit. Also BGS 95, True Gem Plus, there you go. We have a 71 Pele Pog as well. See this a good bit of him portrayed as a king. Haven't seen the back. It's a PSA 2. I'm guessing it's removed in some sort of way. I don't know what happened to the back, but I'm guessing that's what's occurred. That looks pretty beaten up, though, for a back. I'd imagine maybe a metal type of Pog probably shows more back damage than, you know, something like we typically see, so that could be the case. We have a Marcus Stella here of a 1960 through 62 Pele. This one in a PSA 1, the yellow. I don't even know what's going on. Like the side of the card's yellow. I think that's just from the ink being put over there, not in the right spot, but golly. Still does a decent number, 200, but, you know, I guess for an early Pele, it's not really that crazy for something I don't see all too often, or maybe I just don't see it this beat up, and maybe it just seems different, but interesting Pele. It goes for 200. We have a Eusebio from the Sick Verlog set. We see these ones quite a bit. Always love the red on red. Goes for 204 and a PSA 4. Iniesta 222 for a PSA 9. We've been seeing this and Xavi go up a little bit lately. This was a bit lower than their prior sales. I think it's peaked out near 280-ish lately, and before we've seen them go as low as like near 100 almost. So up a little bit, but not at an all-time high, I guess. This one's down, at least, you know, relatively. We have a BGS 9 here of the thumbs up Ronaldo. So this is the 2017 variation. And basically, you know, it's just a short print set where every single one's a variation. There's like 5 or 6 players. Neymar, Kane, Pulisic, Messi, Ronaldo. I think that's it. Yeah, I mean, they go for a good bit. This Ronaldo goes currently for 234. PSA 9 goes for 350, and a PSA 10 goes for, last one was 500. So that doesn't really seem that bad. This is why I said that the red earlier sold pretty high, I thought. I mean, this is a PSA 9. That was a PSA 9. The red's out of 199. This out of 30 for 250. I like tie-dye more too, but I don't know how I feel about the National Pride, especially like tie-dye. I think it looks really bad in this sort of a format. I like tie-dye where you can't really see like the tie-dye part. You just sort of see the edges and they're all different colors. When you can see like this big streak of red and the swirling colors, it's a little more awkward. And sometimes like Portugal, I guess Portugal actually fits a bit more into the template here, but something like America, where it's really wide horizontally, being fit into like a vertical landscape, it's just very odd to look at. Portugal looks a bit better. I like tie-dye, so this is one that I looked at, but 252 doesn't seem too bad, to be honest. 2011 Megan Rapinoe, we'll keep it moving. Michael Owen 2017 Crescent. I feel like we've seen this a few times, or maybe I'm just seeing Michael Owen on a lot of different auction sites, and maybe you know, at this point I feel like I've just seen it a lot. But this goes for 264, which feels like a decent number. We have an early Zico here, not a rookie Zico, but an early Zico from 1976. PSA 6, pretty high grade, goes for 264. PSA 6 of Messi, not a high grade, of the Campio Blue, goes for 276. We'll see a few more of these. This is a Pulisic on-card gold immaculate, not game worn. If it was game worn, I'd definitely be in. But non-game worn, I just, you know, I don't like buying autos for the most part, unless it's like a rookie auto. I just don't see the use in it, to be honest with you. People paying a premium for something that these guys are going to do for the rest of their lives, presumably, if they are cared about. Just not for me. 93-94 Zidane, PSA 8 goes for 312. Like the look of that there, and would be good if you're putting together a full run of Zizou. Above that, we have a 1956 DD, pretty hard to find here. Love the blue background, goes for 324 in a PSA 1. DD, you know what, back's kind of beaten up, but you can still read a lot, which is good. DD is one of the, I guess, more underappreciated players of the era. You know, Pele sort of takes all the spotlight, but definitely a ton of other great Brazilians within that era that also should be collected. But, you know, soccer isn't as deep or as wide of a breadth in terms of collecting, so some go through the cracks, at least for now. 1982 Diego Maradona, PSA 6, goes for 336. I did look this up, I do believe. Yeah, last PSA 4 did 300, so that 6 seems like a good deal. That was fixed price, so, you know, you got to weigh all these things, and I guess a 7 did 360, so comparatively to that 7, this 6 did decent. So really depends what, you know, comp you want to use as the marker, but seems to be within the range, and yeah, I'd be interested. I don't know. Would you guys rather have a 82 in a PSA 6 or an 86 in a PSA 6, given everything's the same? You know, if you could just have one or the other. It's such a weird scenario where you'd probably just rather have a second Panini World Cup sticker, but at least that's the case for me, and I'm interested if others think the same. I still would want the 82, to be honest, but at that point you may as well throw together the whole run. Cantona Gold here, PSA 9 goes for 348. Not too bad, but not a lot of comps, so didn't look that up. 1995 Mundi Chromo here of R9 and a 6.5 goes for 348. We saw this recently, and we talked about it. These are down a good bit, but R9 in general's pretty much down. I mean, Pre-Modern hasn't been doing all too hot, and R9's, you know, within that constellation of Pre-Modern, and he's going to take a dip since he has a lot of options early on, so it's just easier for things to, you know, sort of fall through. 1958 Alifa Team Photo goes for 350. You know, I'll never understand spending $350 on a team photo, but I guess if you have the actual Leafa, maybe you want to pair them together. That's always the thing, is I don't know who's buying the team photos. Maybe it's just, you know, super Brazilian collectors. Obviously, anything Pele is going to have some sort of collector behind it, so I get it. But I mean, $350 for a team photo. I just imagine like the money you'd have to put together to get like Pele team photos, you know, team cards, and get a whole collection of it. It'd be expensive, and I mean, unless you're really into the teams. But if you're a deep Brazilian collector, I could see being into the teams. I think it also could make sense. But with the collectors I see currently, it doesn't make as much sense. But I guess that's the fun in it. There's people for everything, and not to disparage it. I know the Alifa's falling right now, so in the world where the Alifa's falling, do you really want to hop in on the thing below the Alifa? You know, that's all I'm saying. 2018, we have a Casillas here, Eminence. This is an on-card and game-used patch, so gets a good number. You know, Casillas, Spanish legend, Madrid legend, but at the same time, you know, not really as high caliber as, you know, other goalkeepers that are relatively collected. So, you know, he's sort of on a weird point between, you know, being very collectible and not very collectible at all, and it's always interesting to see where that plays out. 2004, Monday Chromo PSA 7 goes for $372. This is in 1990, or at least it says 1990. This is during his Barca days. I looked at the kit, and basically the kit's from 90 to 92, or 89 to 92, so the kit matches the era, but according to Discord posts, there was just basically some rumors in terms of when it was made and people being unsure. You know, it seems like a really cool purchase nonetheless. PSA 2 Stoichkov, basically really hard to find, at least for the time being. I presume it stays that way, but whenever something new appears, you don't really know, so, you know, we'll see. Really cool, though. Like the photo. I think that's a very nice one there, Stoichkov, and excited to see if, you know, how often we can end up seeing that going forward. But yeah, cool one to see in the weekly auction. Next to it, we have a PSA 10 Cristiano Ronaldo first World Cup, goes for $384. Above that, we have a 2004 BGS 8. This felt pretty light. This is Campio and the green version of the Mega Cracks team set, so you would presume this should be something getting a little bit of a premium. Not the case, however. It does have a 7 on edges, and I mean, kind of tough subgrades. If the centering is really what's holding it up, yeah, I probably wouldn't feel too good about it. BGS isn't good on centering on things that don't have clear corners or borders, so, you know, teach their own. We have a Villarreal here of a PSA 1 Pele from 1962, goes for $396. Next to it, we have a Shevchenko here for $408, pop 1 of 9, none higher. In this row, you know, take your pick of whatever ultra-modern you want, and this is part of the thing, too, with, you know, soccer and sort of where we're at. There's a lot of new stuff being produced and sold that still draws high prices, and, you know, will it in the long term? That's an interesting thing, but, you know, there is different things pulling at people's, you know, wallet and just attention at the moment. And so Modern's going to get that, you know, whether it be a 1-of-1 rookie or a Grail set Haaland that, you know, aside from calling it the Grail, I don't know why it's the Grail. You know, if you released it as a set that wasn't called the Grail, I don't know if people would really be as fond and as chasing of it. But once you call it the Grail, you sort of make fetch happen in a way, and you get people chasing it, and then it's sort of a thing. But, you know, and then you could get the Blue Ice, Cristiano Ronaldo. I think that's out of 75. Yeah, out of 75 PSA 10. $456. You know, to each their own. Which one would I rather have in this row? None of them. I'll keep it moving. Probably the Ronaldo. I don't know. 2020. I mean, I'd rather have it than this. I think 2021 1-of-1 Leaf Ronaldo. This artist portrait, whatever this is, it's an abomination. I've seen this before, and I've seen the Messi too, and they are both just absolutely horrid. 1-of-1 here goes for $500, which is probably the value. I mean, you could rip that sticker off the card, and that card's probably worthless. But interesting to see. 2004 BGS 8. See, this is why I thought that the green one was low, because this is Catalan, so is that. But I mean, these typically do more, so that feels like that's either low or this was high. We have a National Pride Messi PSA 10, goes for $550. Again, another example. You know, more modern, just, you know, pulling people's attention. More modern, pulling people's attention. More modern, just tons of modern. You know, recently I sort of mentioned something about consolidation, and consolidation in general has just been interesting to me. I think this is where it becomes the most interesting and sort of the least logical, is when people are, because, you know, I feel like maybe there's people that bought this as, you know, they're just a huge Liverpool. I mean, Liverpool does have a lot of collectors, to be fair, so maybe. But it's like, if we're gonna buy 101s, like, come on, let's spend the money on a good set. Like the National Convention 2023 Virgil van Dijk. That's like a 10th year Virgil van Dijk, a 10th year defender, 1 of 1 from a national collection, which, I mean, no one cares about. The national, you know, blue pulsars from 2014 or whatever. No, I mean, those are like lesser because they're national. Who cares about the set? But we have 1 of 1s going for $600 because it's a 1 of 1, and we're in the era of everything's going down, so you got to buy something crazy. And so, you know, you got people spend, at least if you're going to spend $600, get a random 1 of 1 Messi. You know, if I could get a 1 of 1, give me the Messi, even if it's tops now, I don't care. Give me the Messi. You know, National Convention, Superfractor, VVD. I mean, you know, just grinds my gears a little bit. I mean, this does too. I don't think that this really has much value long term. But again, it's Messi, so it probably does. But to me, it means so little. You know, it's just sort of a shame to see that. I guess so many people are just caught up in modern. I'm going to do a video on it soon, but I want to go through Instagram and just basically look, like, out of the soccer cards posted, what percent are from the last 5 years? And I guarantee it's like 80, 90, 95%. It's a ton. It's just insane. And, you know, I get it. A lot of people are new, so they like the new stuff because that's what they found whenever they got in. But, you know, it's... You gotta dig a little deeper than that, just a little bit. Nonetheless, we'll keep it moving. 1958 Pele Montigum at 1.5 goes for $660. We'll see another one later in much higher grade. A gold Jude auto here goes for $710 or $720. We have an Erling Haaland auto that goes for $720. Again, you know, just more modern, just tearing it up. 2004 Messi PSA 8 goes for $900. This is about where they're at. You know, 8s are a little under 1K, 9s are a little under 2, maybe a little over depending. 1958 PSA 5 record goes for $870. I looked this up because these have dropped a lot lately. A lot of Pelés sort of have, and especially, I guess, the less desirable of the Pelés, and this is, you know, one of the lesser desirable ones, since it's you know, a magazine cutout. And basically, this 5 goes for $870. Last 5 did $900, $1,100, $1,400, $3,100. You know, and keep going back. I guess 3,100's the peak. No, 7,000's the peak. You know, somewhere up there. But basically, pre-boom, I guess January of 2020, a PSA 5 was $520. So, I mean, comparatively to that, that doesn't seem like a bad buy. But, you know, you also have to consider with this recent boom, a lot of them came out of the woodwork and got graded, and people, you know, cut up the magazine. So there's a lot more, but now you probably have a better sample size of what's actually out there and a more trustworthy pop to rely on. Here you have a Luis Suarez out of 5 Eminence, game used presumably. I haven't checked, but I'm pretty sure almost everything in Eminence is. But yeah, a nice looking patch out of 5 for Suarez, goes for $900. Above that, you have a PSA 6 of just Pele. Personally, I'd rather have both of them because 1, the names are wrong. They're switched. They should be the other way. And 2, I just like the cohesive look. Now, to be fair, I like a nice border. Like, none of these have a good red border. I want something more along the lines of this. Like, this is what I'm looking for if I get a record. I want a nice border. 1, because I think the red border looks nice. It kind of looks like a Kanye album to me. It always reminds me of MB, I can't remember all the acronyms for it, but, you know, My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy, good stuff. Reminds me of that, PSA 5, and also, if you get more border, you have more attempts at cutting it, and, you know, trimming, but since it's a trimmed item in the first place, trimming it isn't bad. It's just its natural state. You're not altering its natural state. Its natural state, well, I guess it was on a magazine, but you get the point. The more border you have, the more you have to work with. So just throwing that out there. I'd want more border if possible. Next to it, we do have this. I looked a little deeper. It looks like a Piola, early Piola. I don't want to say rookie because, you know, I'm not too savvy on 30s and 20s Italian. But Piola's on there, and it drew a big price. We see these sort of, I guess, star-shaped items go every now and then from the early Italian era. And, you know, there's 2 to 3 big names you're typically looking for. There's others that make their way into the mix, but if they're doing this big of a number, you typically know who you're going to find. Maradona purple here, Obsidian Auto, goes for 1,080. I've always loved Maradona's auto. I think it's nice and simple, and whenever you can get like the Diego beneath it, those are always really cool. This was pretty shocking, but apparently this was actually a really low price. We'll talk about that in a second, but a Kavicha stained glass PSA 10, I was like, man, that is high. Looked at the comps, this is actually low. I haven't closed anything. There we go. Okay, so we have 1140. Last PSA 10 sold a month ago on eBay auction for $2,800. Now, to be fair, I actually like this picture much more than this PWCC picture. PWCC doesn't do the best work on this sort of stuff where you want it to refract right. You know, maybe a photo out in the sun is going to do you better, like something like this. So I'm sure that plays a role, but also, you know, this PSA 10 case hit, new rookie type of thing, I don't think it should be auctioned off on a weekly auction. You know, if you're hoping that the Kavicha people are going to look through the entire PWCC auction just to finally find, after months and months of hunting, one rookie, of which now they're going to have to shell out thousands for. Yeah, it's just it's a hard ask. So, you know, I think that's probably a good flip. Problem also is that, you know, you're always going to have this comp to look back on, so other people might sort of get you on that. Keeping it moving, Romario PSA 8 goes for $1,300. Look this one up also. We haven't seen this go in a while, at least in this grade. Last time was earlier this year for $3,300. Now it goes for $1,300, which is pretty fair. These have dropped a good bit. Sometimes the higher grades hold up a bit longer, but, you know, in due time, everything will fall and will, you know, sort of go where the market's going, despite, you know, maybe being a little bit harder to grade. Next to it, we have Ronaldinho PSA 6, goes for $1,400. This one I also looked up because we don't see a lot of Ronaldinhos. This PSA 6, $1,400. There was also an auto that was authentic, and that went for $1,100. I thought that'd be interesting. Would you rather have a PSA 6 unautographed or an authentic autograph? I'd choose the PSA 6 because honestly, it seems like a lot of these people will sign one day, and you could have it signed at some point if you'd like, so I'd take the PSA 6, but I can understand wanting an auto. But if we look back, we don't see a lot of these sell. I guess earlier this year went for $2,400 in a 6. This one goes for $1,400, so that's a good drop. To be honest, I think it's fair. I know it's harder to get, but at the same time, you know, if what I compare everything to at this point is the Ronaldo football. Ronaldo football PSA 6 is probably like $1,000. I understand Ronaldinho's more rare, but at the same time, you know, I think there's a lot more people that want to collect Ronaldo than Ronaldinho, and so I think that sort of evens itself out, probably. This one still comparatively a little bit higher, I think, at the moment. One of one Jade Holland here from the 2021 Topps goes for $1,600. One of one here from a non-game used just piece of a Man City kit from Julian, well, not even from Julian Alvarez, but depicting the team that Julian Alvarez plays for, goes for $1,700. We have a PSA 8.5 Pele and Garrincha that goes for $2,640. Really, really good grade on that. Now, 9s are, you know, moderately doable. I think there's 10s out there too. Don't quote me on that, but I just think, given its state and how many 9s I've seen, that there are 10s. And so, you know, really good grade, but not as great as you can get. But, you know, from what we saw earlier, we saw 5s at the peak, right, selling for $3,000 to $6,000, so an 8.5 for 2.5. Not bad. Again, magazine cutout, keep it in mind, but it is what it is. We have a one of one sticker auto Ronaldo here going for $3,400. This is a PSA 10 Kylian Mbappe. We don't see these all too often, but it's in the range. These have fallen. I mean, back in the day, you know, I remember them being 10 to 15,000, sort of during the peak. Realistically, 5,000's more so what they're around typically, and now they're starting to, you know, fall a little bit lower, 4,000, 3,000. I did the math on it recently though, and again, you know, I compare everything to the Ronaldo football, but I think the Ronaldo football just shows you a good example of a great player that isn't being collected heavily at the moment and has had fake stickers made, right? So it hits all the boxes. GOAT, not heavily collected at this time because, you know, people hate him, and there's been fake stickers out there, right? So, you know, you basically have what you need to get a good idea of what's going on, and the market cap for this Panini foot Mbappe is almost double the Ronaldo. So given that, I think these are still high. I think, you know, $3,300 for something. I think these are pop 210, something around there. I mean, it's a lot of money. Obviously, this is sort of his sticker. You have Holland, who has the foosball that's more populous and is worth about 1,000. Those are definitely too high as well if you do the market cap on that. But, you know, at the same time, again, like we've seen throughout this, people are more willing to spend on modern stuff. Both because they probably, you know, have more hope in it, they can follow it. There's just a lot of things that go into it, but it would be something I'd be wary of. Keeping it moving, we have a 2018 Leaf. This actually looks really good on the front. Like, Leaf doesn't get it right a lot. They got this kind of right. Like, you know, the headshots are too small to really see that there's no licensing, so that's good. And the Pele auto looks pretty good. So you got a nice Leo, you got a nice Ronaldo, you got a nice Pele, all on card, on sticker. I don't think they've gone off. So to me, that looks pretty good. You know, I'm not a big Leaf guy, but I think that's an all right one. Then we move into what is the top 6 here. So we have a PSA 10 green. This is a Campeón, so a Spanish version, goes for nearly 4,000. Looking back at past sales, I just looked up PSA 10. So this one was 3,800. As we'll see in a second, there was a blue that went for 8,700. So a huge premium on the blue. The white in the past went for 3,600. And given that, I think this was a real steal if you got the green, right? Now, at the same time, now to be honest, this is not a PSA 10. If it got regraded, I can basically guarantee that. When you look at this top border by the Campeón, you want the top section to be about the same width as the left section, and this is probably 2 or 3 times as much. So this is an example where I think this is probably a PSA 8, you know, realistically. If someone knows what they're doing, I don't think that that's getting a 10. It maybe gets a 9 on a good day and is likely an 8. So I think that's either a huge overpay or a huge steal, depending on how you want to look at it. But 4,000 for that. Then we have a Montagum 1958 Pele here in a PSA 7. Really high grade, pop 1 of 2, just 1 higher. I did look this one up. This went for 4,400. The last time this sold was the same exact one that sold for nearly 17,000. Notably, this is also even before the 2021 boom, so before things really went parabolic. So that is a huge loss, especially considering the timing, but at the same time, I sort of understand it. You know, I don't know why you'd pay 16,000 for this depiction of Pele. People obviously, you know, debate the depiction of Pele itself, but even then, it's just not that great looking. It does have Pele on the ace, so, you know, it's kind of interesting in that way, but at the same time, it's just, that is so expensive. So 16,000, I can see why, you know, we're not pulling that number at this point in time. Not a lot of things command that in soccer. I mean, even Alifas are really dropping below that in lower grades, so, you know. But yeah, we'll keep it moving from the Pele. Moving on to the Erling Haaland, we have an out of 25 auto from his rookie year, 1 out of 25 PSA 9. Looked this one up since there was going to be comps for it. It said, I think, pop 1 of 9. And basically, prior, we had 7,200 for what is also a PSA 9. We had, what, 5,000, 5,007, 4. I guess that one's different. But yeah, I mean, going back, this has been around 6,000, 7,000, so yeah, I mean, a little over 5 isn't ideal, but at the same time, you know, I don't know. Really, it's what's going to woo people in terms of soccer collecting. He's already wooed people. That's sort of the thing, is once you're on this high tier, where can you go? How can you build? How can you progress? And it just takes time, right? And I don't know if a lot of people that buy into someone like Erling Haaland want to wait the time. And so, you know, we see more and more of them. So where they land, you know, we'll see over due time. I mean, 53 under for a sticker auto still, I will say, is pretty impressive, despite, you know, maybe being down 10-20%. I still think that's all right. Which moves us into the top 3. So this is a Pele 1958. Goes for 8,100. Pop 1 of 2, just 1 higher. Don't know too much about it because it is a postcard, so it's not really on my radar, but it is a nice depiction of Pele, so I can see why people would enjoy it. But yeah, not up my alley, and I don't think I'm going to be able to find many comps, and don't know if I really want to, but it does look really nice, so I can't fault it on that. Next to it, we do have this PSA 10 Lionel Messi, number 35. Looking at this top border, this looks a little closer. Again, I still think that left side just a little bit thick comparatively to the top. But, you know, it got a 10, so it is what it is. PSA said so. I can't question it. 8,700 is what it pulls, and as we saw prior, decent price. I mean, you know, these are basically anywhere between 5 to 10K for the PSA 10s. The white ones being the lowest typically, and the blue ones, as you can see, being the highest. So within the ballpark, obviously at one point, again, these were very expensive, but at one point prior to them being very expensive, they were very cheap relative. So, you know, somewhere in the middle is where we're at now, and pretty good sale, I would say. Finally, we end off with, I think this was the second biggest sale in the weekly in general. Now, the first biggest sale was a Fortnite card, which I wouldn't have been able to guess, but, goes to show, I guess, basketball, baseball doesn't always win the day, especially in a weekly where, almost anything can happen. 2019 finest, this is a BGS 10, numbered out of 50, Erling Haaland Gold, goes for $16,000. Don't have anything to count this off of because it's BGS 10, Pomp 1 of 1, but we do see the out of 50 Topps Chrome Bundesliga is doing near this price in a PSA 10. Personally, I know it's not the common take, but I take this one every single day. I want him in a Salzburg kit. I know people like the Topps Chrome. I know they like him in the, color match Dortmund kit. I think this looks great. I'd rather have this one, but again, I don't think that's a common take. But yeah, can't beat a BGS 10. Personally, think it's a really cool card and deservingly on the top of the list this week. Looking back through a pretty good week. Some decent things at the top, a lot at the bottom. That's the thing with soccer. I feel like we lack some of the middle substance, but I think that's a fun spot to play as well. So hopefully you guys enjoyed. I know I did as well, and yeah, I think that's what we're gonna call it. So if you liked the video, make sure to leave a like. Would appreciate it greatly. If you want to see more videos like this, as soon as I go live, make sure to subscribe. And yeah, with that said, hopefully you have a wonderful day, and peace.